watching Suddenly Ducks. I'm Bermuda.
And I'm Phil, and today we're playing Dark Heresy. And over to you, Warren.
You guys know what session this one is? Because we've been playing this for a while now and I can't remember.
I will tell you exactly.
40-second.
It is our 16th session of Dark Heresy.
A lot of months of Dark Heresy. Alright, anyway, you guys, where last we left off, there has to be a bit of explanation about what happened, so this might be a bit long-winded, but we'll see. You guys, escaped from, Carrick after killing him, or at least you think you killed him, back on Tadia Primaris, or at least what you think is Tadia Primaris. You were in some place he called the Folly, where, it screamed of warp shit, so you're not really sure what it was, but after he died, the place started to collapse and convulse violently. So you guys jumped through one of the portals that you got into the place from, and ended up on a sort of a primordial forest world. While you were there was a lot of weird shit with this strange alien race. You guys found some ruined Imperial Guard bunkers and basically just tried to survive the horror long enough. Eventually you managed to find a plane, and a Valkyrie transport, and you took off. The orbital sort of satellites that the Inquisition had left, saying that the planet was forbidden because of the weird alien things, you guys sent a message through it, and eventually it seems a ship picked it up rather quickly, and a few days later, a very heavily modified, non-standard Imperial ship showed up in the system, and one Inquisitor Orsini of the Ordo Hereticus came out and declared you Diabolus Maleficarum, which basically means you're heretics that consort with demons. So he gave you formal charges that you were being taken by the Inquisition as prisoners to be formally interrogated, yada yada yada, and the full course of Imperial justice and all that. You guys decided there was no choice but to submit. So you submitted, and he took you back to his ship, which, from what you saw, turned out to be a very small escort ship of some kind, barely above a raider class, so only maybe about 1,000 or less crewmen, probably less considering servitors. So a very small vessel. Once you were back on the vessel, you guys were immediately thrown into some very dark black cells, where you have lingered for weeks on end. In the course of those weeks, you've been taken out one at a time. You haven't seen each other since you got captured, and you've been interrogated repeatedly by three of Inquisitor Orsini's interrogators, which are like Inquisitors in training, basically, and like the right hand and left hand men and women of an interrogator's or an Inquisitor's cadre, basically. And these three Inquisitors in training have basically been grilling you for the last few weeks on the trip that you are supposedly taking back to Ikabar for a conclave of the Inquisition, which is, you guys know this because, well, at least Victus does, because Victus is essentially an interrogator in training as well, who would probably one day become an Inquisitor himself. A conclave of the Inquisition is a very rare thing that happens only every couple of decades or even centuries, where all the Ordos of the Inquisition in a sector, i.e. the Ixionad sector where you guys are, would gather on a particular world for a meeting to discuss or dissect a strange Xenos or a group of heretics or something that they find. And by dissect, I mean they verbally, mentally, and psychically interrogate and try to learn as much as they can about the enemy so that they better know how to fight them. Sometimes it leads to actual physical dissection as well, so hope that does not happen to you.
Yay.
It's a very rare thing, so the fact that they're calling this conclave means they treat you as a very, very high threat. So you're all a mixture of feeling betrayed, baffled, you're not quite sure what's going on. The one time interrogator Orsini talked to you all himself individually, a few of you learned that apparently Solens Beckons, your master, the Inquisitor who brought you into the Inquisition, never existed. And he was, it was simply a ruse by Carrick to influence you to do things. He says you were in collaboration with Carrick the entire time. Your illegal operations, you're masquerading as, inquisitorial acolytes. You summoned, whatever you did, you summoned the Warp Storm to Thadia, which resulted in the Chaos War that erupted from the cultists around there, which inevitably ended a few years ago, because you guys basically skipped ahead 9 years or disappeared into the warp for 9 years, essentially. Which eventually led to the exterminatus of Thadia Primaris and the condemning of about 6 billion souls to death. So they're holding you to account for that as well. So the charges against you are enormous, to say the least. So, yes, things are looking extremely grim, and you're all very, very confused. Um, you guys are to be found here. Let me see. So you guys should all hear the starship from me now.
Like, oh, I have a bigger cell, but mine's probably warded, isn't it?
Yeah, so, Zarkov, I'll go through you one at a time. All of you are in dark cells where you have beds, but the beds are kind of poorly maintained and full of lice and other things like that, so they're not pleasant to say the least. Zarkov, you were given a slightly more elaborate room, but it's not really pleasant for you because there are pentagrammic and hexagrammic wards all across the walls, which basically suppress everything you can do with just your psychic will, and essentially cause you intense, agonizing pain, like a mind-numbing, like someone stabbing a needle into your brain constantly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you are not having fun, but now you've kind of gotten used to it. Now you just constantly have like a migraine all the time, rather than just searing pain. The rest of you, all of you have been fed, like, basically just a small port in your door opens up every now and then at a scheduled time every day and throws in essentially a slop bucket of nutrient soup that tastes like water, some black bread that's quite stale, and the water, and this is all you've been given to eat for weeks on end. If they are indeed going to Ikabar from the world you were on, they're taking their sweet time because you should have been there weeks ago, but it seems Orsini is trying to sway some political leverage here to increase his rank in the Inquisition, because before he gets to the Conclave, he wants to be able to present them with pretty much all the information, so he's relentlessly had his interrogators drill you for weeks on end for any bit of information you have, and even though you guys have just repeated the same things again and again about everything you know, and told like the truth to the best of your abilities, I suppose, unless you guys want to lie about anything in particular, the interrogators don't believe you, and they can consistently just treat you as heretics and liars, essentially.
Do they not have psychers come and try and mind probe?
The way the Inquisition works is it has, I shit you not, it has 22 layers of interrogation, and it starts with like minor just discussions, and it goes up and up and up, and when you reach like the 12th level it starts to become physical, after that it becomes mental, and then like when you reach around the 18th level it becomes psychic, and then after that it becomes like lethal interrogations, if you know what I mean, where the person will not survive.
Alright. Fuck.
So not fun then.
So things have slowly been getting worse and worse, and you guys are you already know, like, you're getting to the point where they're going to start causing you bodily harm, and things are going to start getting unpleasant, even though they've already been unpleasant.
Has Flo already undergone something like this?
Probably.
I mean, after the
very-
last party.
To a degree, probably not as much as this, because you were
Okay.
in the hands of Silence Beckons, or at least you were in the hands of someone who was on your side. You're not even sure if your Inquisitor was real, or if you guys were ever even part of the Inquisition. It's all become very hard to judge at this stage.
Mhm.
So, let's see, who's the lucky number one who's going to go first? There's 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm not going to do Boone because he's not here. So. Okay, so Mira, you're going to be the first one interrogated today. So, a bunch of gruff men in Inquisitorial Stormtrooper raiment who have been your jailers, or gaolers, whatever you want to call them, for the last few weeks, essentially turn up at your jail cell and once again roughly pull you out and bring you into a room you're getting all too familiar with. They quite calmly pull you over here and sit you down, They shackle you to the chair again, and as soon as you're in the chair, they activate a archaeotech device of some kind, and a gravity pull pulls you down into the chair and immobilizes you. So even if you could move, which you can't due to the gravity pull, you're already shackled and chained and everything else. And oh, by the way, you all wear explosive collars. Okay? And Zarkov, to add insult to injury, you have an explosive collar and a psychic reductor, which is basically a sort of a hat with a ton of metal pins that are slightly sticking into your skull that also suppress your psychic ability.
Ah, good.
So it's like a reverse psychic code, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So once again, they bring you out, and all three of the interrogators you've come to see over the last few weeks, sort of glare at you with thinly veiled hatred. You already know there's interrogator Grinman, who likes to be called Lady Grinman. She apparently comes from noble bearing and likes everybody to know it. There's interrogator Angelica, who has the look of someone who served in the Imperial Guard and saw a bit too many things, but came out the stronger for it and was recruited into the Inquisition. And finally, there's interrogator Vedrick, who has everything. He screams, career Inquisition, who was essentially, brought immediately from the Schola Progenium to join the Inquisition due to probably high test scores, inquisitiveness, and, general complete loyalty to the Imperium and faith in the God Emperor, that kind of thing. So they sit you down once again, and the line of questioning is, as before, they start with the thinly veiled pleasantries. Good morning, Lady Amira, Interrogator Vedrick says as he looks over his notes. As per our last discussion, we'd like to go back to the events of, let me see, 314-841 Thadia Primaris, the city of Balarion, the temple of the Holy Emperor. Please, again, speak to us about what you saw that day. I believe we left off where you had just escaped a so-called ambush from the orcs and infiltrated the city. I think where we left off exactly was you said you began hearing voices inside the chapel. Is this correct?
This is correct.
And were these voices the voices that have followed you since birth, telling you to defy the Emperor?
No.
Come now, Lady Mira. We know that a lady in your prophilic order to have fallen so far, to have infiltrated the Imperium to such a core, would be a scandal of the highest caliber. Tell us, when did you truly decide to betray your sisters?
I never did.
Okay, and the line of question just goes on like this forever. No matter what you say, they just constantly turn it back on you. Every little slip of a word, they just go on and on and on. And then when you come yet again, because this is like the 100th time you've reiterated the story, when you come to the folly and what Carrick told you and everything else, they get very inquisitive. They ask extremely personal questions about the vision you had back in your world. They ask you about how exactly Carrick died, the book. They ask you, was Victus the ringleader? Was he influenced by Zarkov? Etc., etc., etc. They even ask which Chaos God you follow now in particular and all that shit. And they go on for ages and ages and ages. And after what seems like hours of interrogation, they're clearly getting quite annoyed at this. And, Angelica just sort of slams her fist down and she looks at you and says, "You can deny these all you want, Lady Mira, but you must know that eventually your compatriots are going to fall and they're going to rat you out much, to save their skin. Thus is the way of chaos and heretics. Simply confess now, and I promise you your sentence will be lighter than theirs."
I will not confess.
It just goes, they clearly, getting very bedraggled and quite annoyed at this, and continually they just go on, and then eventually they just, dismiss you in anger, and the stormtroopers pick you up very roughly and lead you back to your cell and essentially just throw you in. Alright, so a few minutes later, or well, a day or two later, Zarkov, you're once again dragged out, same treatment. And they sit you down on the chair and say, the first thing that comes to mind is Lady Grinman just sort of grins at you, sort of like in a very less than pleasant tone, and she just says, "So when did you sell your soul to demons, Zarkov?"
I have never sold my soul to anyone. My soul has always been in service of the God Emperor.
You are a psyker of prodigious strength. It's quite well known that your ilk tend to consort with demons or fall to chaos. You are a conduit for them into our real world, of course. I'm sure you've heard the whispers. Was it you who passed the taint to the others?
Like, there was no taint to pass.
So she just slams her fist on the ground, and, Vedrick just, puts up a PlayStation hand thrown and says, "Truly," and then he just starts throwing, like, papers in front of you, gets up and walks over, even though you can't move. He just puts them down so you can see them. And you see, like, the reports of the war on Tadia Primaris that you never saw because you were lost in the warp, etc., etc. It's like, then please explain this. Explain how you and your cadre knew how to infiltrate that cult underneath Verthan. Please explain how the Brotherhood of the Knife had infiltrated a society so deeply and we knew nothing of it. Was it because you tried to give a scapegoat to look like you were truly part of the Inquisition? Is this why you gave up the son of House Obrook to the Inquisition to assuage your own guilt? And then he sort of throws, a giant folder down on top of you full of crimes and evidence against you and everything else. Most of it circumstantial.
Yeah, I say, were ordered by our was it Interrogator his title?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were ordered by Interrogator Taurus to go after Carrick. We encountered what I could only describe of an angel of death who was fallen, the ruinous powers. And we chased after Carrick and entered the folly, as which I've already told you.
He says, yes, this folly that you all miraculously keep speaking of. Do you know what I believe, Zarkov? I believe that you and your heretic friends had finally met up with your true master, Carrick, and that you finally completed whatever necessary foul deeds you needed to summon the warp storm to the Tadia Primaris system. Is this not true? And he sort of slams down on the table and looks you square in the eyes.
I say Carrick was using a lot of his attention to hold a creature inside of a book before I could try and also put my attention into keeping this demon at bay. The rest of the cadre ended up killing Carrick, and thus the demon could escape.
And he looks, squared at you and he says, "You continue to claim this, but we found no evidence that this folly ever existed. We never found the passage you speak of below the Citadel, or below the Cathedral. We never found any remains of Carrick, and we never found this fallen Astartes you keep speaking of. Where is this evidence? We have none of it."
Like, do you expect 6 simple humans of an Inquisitor cadre to simply kill a Space Marine? We managed to injure him enough, and he must have not have died and got up and walked away afterwards.
He just, shakes his head and says, "Lies, lies, lies. When will you finally learn? You cannot escape the fate that is inevitable. You've been condemned to death, it's all but assured. You can simply reduce the suffering you will feel at the end and simply admit to your guilt. Perhaps you can find some redemption in the Emperor's eyes."
If I have been condemned to death, then do it now. I do not need to sell my soul to you so that you may rise in the ranks of the Inquisition.
So he goes and sits down.
Yeah, for I've done nothing wrong.
Yeah. He just goes and he sits down again and says, "You do know what awaits you, don't you? A conclave of the Inquisition. Such a thing is a very rare occurrence. The pain and suffering you will feel under the touch of dozens of Inquisitors of all the Ordos will not be small, to say the least. Your pain will be legendary."
Like, my pain will free me of these sins that you have claim I have, and so be it. As they say, no pain, no gain.
So they just look at each other and they talk in veiled whispers between one another, and they continue on and say, "Take him back to his cell. We're done with him." And they just roughly drag you off and bring you back and throw you back in.
Right.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, this time they drag you out, Flo. And instead of finding the 3 interrogators you've gotten used to, you find something else entirely, and they drag you in front of this man. So you have not seen Inquisitor Orsini since he captured you on... I can't even remember the name of that world anymore. Let me look it up. Seti Bonitis, yeah, Bonitis, or whatever it's called. Stupid name, but yeah. You haven't seen him since then, and you're like the first one. You don't know it because you haven't seen any of your compatriots. You don't even know if they're alive or dead or not. And he just like sort of blankly stares at you and says, "I've decided to conduct your interrogation today personally, Flo. Or should I call you Savon Hallwood? The details of your joining the Inquisition," he says with a bit of distaste, "have been made available to me for some time, and I have some interesting questions for you that need to be explained. What is your association with the demon host that appeared in your old cadre? Was it then that you were tainted by chaos and spread the influence to the others?"
I'm pure as the driven snow.
So he sort of smiles and says, "Truly, if that's so, then please explain this." And he throws a small sort of astro-telepathica message to you. And you spend a few minutes... Well, can you read, actually? That's interesting.
I am illiterate.
Okay, so he just starts explaining it to you then. "I'm unsure if one of your ilk is able to read. However, the basis of the information in front of you is quite damning, to say the least. Several years ago, after the event, the demon host that you unleashed upon the poor people of Ikabar has been hunted by one of the Ordo Malleus. He located the beast several times and clashed with it numerous times. Unfortunately, it has continued to elude us. But upon one of their meetings and engagements, it mentioned something interesting in passing while he and his cadre attempted to subdue and destroy it. It mentioned that it was looking for someone, and that you very much matched this description. In fact, it went so far as to say it was looking for Savon. What do you say to that? Why would this demon host know you by name, and why would it be looking for you?"
Probably wants to kill me. And if it wants to kill me, then it can't be on my side, right?
So he just shakes his head and says, "If such a demon host wanted to kill you, it wants to kill all that serve the Emperor's name. Why would it search for you in particular, unless you were the one that truly unleashed it in the first place?"
Do I look like I have that kind of power? I can't even read.
He just looks you up and down and says, "You've been touched by the warp in more ways than one," and he just sort of like looks at your mutations, and he's like, "Perhaps it wasn't so hard for you to learn a little more than you should."
Well, I don't know nothing about demons. I couldn't... I wouldn't know where to begin summoning one. It wasn't me.
So he just sort of looks at you flatly, and then, clicks his fingers, and one of the stormtroopers comes up and he whispers something to her. And then he walks off and grabs you, and he just, says as you're being lifted up, "You'll be taken to the Psychana. I'm going to see if you have some sort of latent psychic ability we do not know about. Perhaps you unwittingly summoned a demon into the world and you did not know it." And they drag you off. And for the next several days, you're subjected to what you can only describe as psychic torture, as they try to probe your mind to see if you have any latent psychic ability. It is not pleasant. So roll willpower -10 for me.
This is gonna go well.
Clamp.
Didn't
Okay.
fail too horribly.
You can re-roll if you want, with a fate point.
I only have 3.
I'd say do it.
I don't think it could go better. I rolled a 45.
Need can.
Okay, laser clamps. Well, how about that?
Yep, so you pass, so you don't gain any insanity. So somehow you get through it without suffering any insanity. So, let me see. Next on the list.
Something tells me that was going to be a lot of insanity.
It's only psychic probing. Probably
I
like
rolled a
25.
3 that time. Laser clamps is powerful.
So you're brought out, Ficus, and they've stripped you of all your mechanical mechadendrites, all your weapons. You're just down to your bare, like any of your body that's bionically augmented is still around, so long as it isn't weaponized to some degree. And they sit you down on the chair, same thing as before, and they look over their notes, and they begin examining. Without wordlessly, like they just begin examining your implants and things like that, while Vedrick looks over some notes. So it becomes kind of obvious to you that they're trying to find if you have any heretical tech of any kind on you, or any strange machinery that might indicate consorting with the Dark Mechanicus or anything like that. And Vedrick just looks up at you and says, I have a singular question that will be of interest to you. You have served this anonymous Silence Beckons for quite some years before the mission started on Ikabar and you transitioned to Thadia Primaris. In all that time, did you not question who your master truly was?
Do you question your masters at every occasion?
He sort of shakes his head and says, of course not, but I know who my masters are and who they truly serve. How could you possibly
Well, so
follow...
did I.
How could you possibly follow a being that you've never even met?
When you're taken into the Inquisition, do you... faith.
Yes.
That is why.
Alright, so he just puts...
When I truly believed that he was part of the Inquisition, and I personally know little of your methods other than what I've seen.
Alright, so he just looks at you and says, why did you abandon the Mechanicus to join these radicals?
I thought it was a great opportunity to serve the Emperor. The Omnisci.
And he just sort of, looks at you blankly. And do you believe you have served the Omnisci? And he just, throws down orbital picked images of the Exterminatus of Thadia Primaris. And then he just throws down more and shows, the casualty list and says, do you truly believe you served mankind?
The things that were down there needed to be destroyed.
And then
if they were to leave that planet untold, more damage would be done than what we see in these pictures.
So he just sort of slams his hands down on the table again and says, yes, they needed to be destroyed because you and your ilk summoned them to that world. Conscious
We
or
were there
not,
to
you
destroy
aided
them.
Carrick. He just shakes his head and says, ignorance is no excuse. And sits back down again calmly. Continues to look over his work and says, we will discuss another matter that has become something of a linchpin in this case. When Interrogator Tyrus ordered you to expressly go against the orders and wishes of my master, give me a second. What's his name again? Let's look up. Oh yeah, Lord Inquisitor Bracken. He forbid you and Interrogator Tyrus from continuing your investigations on Thadia Primaris. Did you not question Interrogator Tyrus's power or will to send you to that world? Or did you knowingly just go against the rules of an Inquisitor of the Inquisition and perform heretical duties without his knowledge? Did you not stop to question for 1 minute that perhaps Bracken had denied your request to find Carrick for a reason? That perhaps you were already suspected of heresy?
I know nothing of this. I know that I was sent to complete a mission, and I was given my orders, and I completed my task. It was to stop the incursion of demons.
So he just like goes on drilling you for a while with constant questions. Whenever you say truth or an honesty, like before, he just dismisses it to the side, twists your words, goes on and on and on. And after a while, he throws you in there with the promise that they will return you to the Mechanicus so that they can have due punishment against you. Okay. So, finally, they bring out Victus. So, Victus, they sit you down and they're about to begin the interrogation when this guy comes out.
Alright, are we in warp translation right now, or?
Yep.
Alright.
At least you think so.
Alright.
You have
I
the
guess,
tingling of the Galar field, so...
Yeah, if I'm having terrible nightmares, I guess I am.
So, they're about to start interrogating you when they stop seeing Interrogator Orsini coming out, and he just waves a hand and he sits down and they continue to interrogate as if he isn't there, though they look a bit more tense, like things just became very serious. And Interrogator Vedrick sort of takes up his notes and looks over it and says, Victus of House Bavarius, your house has long been one of noble imperial status, but one mired in more than a little subterfuge. It wouldn't take much for your noble self to fall and accept the will of chaos to gain an edge against your enemies. Did you join the Inquisition to gain power so that you could leverage your influence inside the Imperium?
That is incorrect. That is incorrect. I serve only the God Emperor. That's why I chose this path.
If you truly serve the God Emperor, then why do you go against his wishes? Why did you disobey the express order of Lord Inquisitor Bracken, to discontinue the investigation of Carrick? Why did you not heed his superior experience? Look to what it led to, the destruction of Thadia Primaris, the end of your heresies.
Because I heeded the voices of the Inquisitor Silence Beckons through the words of Interrogator. What's his name? Paris.
So Orsini just talks for a moment and says, there is no Silence Beckons, there never was. You were merely a plaything of the arch enemy. You have been deluded and misused. And even though I believe at this stage that perhaps, maybe, you have not been tainted, that does not preclude your innocence. Ignorance is as much a cause and a sign of guilt as anything else.
Then I do as I look up and say, and then don't fail as we did. Find who has a hand on this matter.
He shakes his head and says, failure is only an admission of guilt. And then he just sort of looks over to Vedrick and says, continue the interrogation, and tomorrow bring it up to the next level. And then Vedrick sort of looks at him for a moment and says, that's mental interrogation, are you sure, Inquisitor? We were ordered to bring them back to the Conclave unmolested. And then he sort of looks at him for a moment and says, you have your orders, Vedrick, and he just walks off. Then he just looks back at you and says, Vedrick just sort of looks back at you and says, you brought this on yourselves. Take him away. Tomorrow may the God Emperor have mercy on your souls. And they throw you back in your cell. So, let me see. Okay, so the night passes quite slowly. And let me see what happens. Give me a second.
Is there any cloth in the in the bed, Warren? on the bed?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, if I can, I rip it off and like put a bandana over my eyes. I don't like tear them out or anything. I just put it over them.
Okay. Gonna start clawing your own eyes like it again.
Nah, it's just probably getting too Zarkov at this point.
Okay. Just doing some stuff. Give me a sec. Okay, so in the middle of the night, while you're all sleeping, make an awareness test plus 20, and it's based on sound. So if anyone has anything that increases sound.
30.
But you have none of your gear, by the way. It's all been confiscated. You're only wearing like sack sort of tunics and things like that.
I'm going to reroll that. One second, let me check something. I think I have awareness plus 20, but it's... yes. Okay, let me just... But it's not ticking the 20. Ah.
Is it based on hearing?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I used one fate point.
Did you see minus 20?
Plus 20.
Okay, let me just look. Okay, so in the middle of the night, you guys are all startled awake. You hear a bunch of shouting coming from just outside your doors, so it's very muffled because the doors are very large. So anyone who succeeded on that wakes up and can move to the door. After a few minutes, you hear a sort of a semi-explosion kind of thing, and a very strange crackling sound, kind of like energy pumping against a wall or something. Then you hear this sound, and like continued fire coming from outside. You hear men screaming, and a lot of other things. Then let me see.
I slip my bandana up so I can actually see.
Mm-hmm. Then, Flo, you hear a sound at your door as if someone was unlocking it. And then a few minutes later, a strange hooded figure comes into your room. Okay, so the figure is small in gait, maybe about 5'7" or so, and just sort of, completely draped head to toe in a very long, dark robe, without any markings or indications. It's kind of a crude sort of black robe. Then the hooded figure says in a sort of raspy voice, "Come with me," and stalks at the door again, and leaves the door open.
Wait, first swear your loyalty to the God Emperor first.
Yeah, it's not going to do that.
Oh, fuck you.
Well, it opened the door for you, so come out or not, it's up to you. So when you come out, you find a scene of like total carnage and bloodshed. All the inquisitorial stormtroopers that were guarding you are dead, and so is the woman you know as interrogator Angelica, dead in the center of the room. There's scorch marks all along the walls. Several of the lights have been broken. Many others are flickering and everything like that. And the hooded figure just, sort of looks at you for a long, drawn-out moment, Flo, as you come out of the door. And you almost think you saw a hint of a, pearly white teeth as it smiles beneath the robes, and then it slowly goes over to each door and begins to unlock them one by one. And just says nothing, just unlocks the doors where your compatriots are.
With this, like, reverse psychic hood, does it just prevent all, like, me reaching out with my mind, or just the prevention of me summoning, like, powers?
In that cell, you just can't summon psychic shit because the warp is cut off in there. With the hood on, it reduces your psi rating by a factor of 2.
Right.
Flo says to Ficus, having seen him for the first time in ages, I think this is a test. They're seeing if we're gonna accept chaos now. This is all a setup. They set this up.
Very possibly.
I sign this into the hooded figure, if I can.
I'll just slowly goes around there. Yeah, you can try.
Yeah,
you can't get any sense off them at all.
Alright.
So the hooded figure just slowly and wordlessly opens all the doors, and then sort of walks over to gather in the middle of the room. If you guys want to take the weapons of these stormtroopers, each one of them has like a hell gun. That'll be the only weapon you have.
How about the
Sweet.
interrogator?
All the weapon we need.
Interrogator Orsini had no weapons on her, only her interrogator garment. She wasn't expecting to be attacked.
Yeah. Does she have, like, any charms, any, like...
Not really. She just has like her bodysuit, if you know what I mean, which is like armor 2. If you wanted to rip that off her, but...
No, I put her arms in the shape of the Equido. Does she have any, like, blood, like, pulling out?
Well, for the record, most of these guys who are dead died in very horrific ways. Some of them have like gaping holes and like where like half their torso on the right or left is like missing a giant hole and it's burnt as if like a huge energy weapon of some kind. Some of them have been almost ripped limb from limb. Some of their like flesh has been torn from their bodies as if they've been raked by some horrible beast. Others have like pinpricks of dozens of impact weapons from hell guns, as if they turned on each other and shot each other. And they've all died in fairly horrific ways. Like, it doesn't look like standard, like they were killed by bladed weapons or anything like that. It all looks like they were just like ripped apart or burned or eviscerated. Some of them have like literally been disemboweled and things like that.
I turn to the hooded the figure, and in the commanding voice I ask, what's the meaning of this?
So it just looks to you and says, I'm getting you out of here, little one. That is enough to suffice for you now. Ask questions when you are free. Time is of the essence. We have little chance to escape here. I provided momentary distraction, but things are about to get far more difficult. And then it moves to the door and starts tinkering with the log.
How many clips does the stormtrooper have?
Each stormtrooper has 2 clips of Helgun ammo.
Okay. I take like these 2 so far.
Yeah, I don't take a Hellgun, so...
And I don't know, I'm thinking of shooting this guy, but I'm afraid.
I guess Boone comes out, takes a Hellgun, 2 clips.
I look at the group and I look at the... One second, I'm trying to find the Hellgun stats.
Hellgun is its range 140, damage 1d10 plus 4, pen 7, clip 30.
So you guys want to do anything? Now's the time to do it because the hooded figure is like just tinkering with the door. You think whoever he or she is attempting to open it, but you're not sure. But they're clearly trying to manipulate the very powerful lock on the door.
I just try like test the limits of like my psychic.
Yeah, it's whatever your psi rating is minus 2 because of the thing in you. It'll take an actual like Medicaid test and a fully like orientated Medicaid bay to like remove it without causing brain damage and things like that.
I turn to Mira and ask, should we... I do not believe this one follows the God Emperor. I do not trust him. This is too much. Shall we turn against him? and I'm not sure what action to take now.
You're not the only one in surety of what action to take. I do not know either. For right now, I don't know what to believe. If he's worshipping the God Emperor or what he is.
Then let's be attentive and see for now what he does. Okay.
Alright, so the hooded figure messes with the lock on the great door for a while, and finally manages to get it open, and walks through and turns to you and says, "Come, there is little time." In like a sort of a deep, strained, raspy voice, if you know what I mean. We must escape before they become aware, and continues to lead you down the corridor. So, you guys follow it? Yep.
We're already damned.
But the thing is, yeah, they look like they died with chaos shape, like they died shooting each other, holes and stuff. I'm very inclined to shoot this guy.
Yeah, I'm supporting you in that.
Okay.
Walk at the first chance of freedom. We'll see how far this goes, and if we run into more inquisitorial assets and still have that same frame of mind, we gun him down in front of them.
What if we capture him and turn him in?
That's like I
Him or
look
her.
back at the room with stormtroopers all dead. Like,
Fair enough.
yeah, no.
Okay. So, unless you guys do anything, the hooded figure leads you down some winding corridors and what you think is probably the bowels of this vessel that you're on. You're unsure.
Would I, before we're able to like fully leave, could I like quickly do a Medicaid test on Angelica just to check if she is definitely her and dead kind of thing?
Oh yeah, you can do anything you want to. She looks fairly dead, I'm not gonna lie. Like, her right arm's been pulled out of her sockets. She's got giant, like, straight slashes down her abdomen and everything else. So yeah, so as far as you can tell, she's been like utterly like, eviscerated, basically.
Okay, I just wanted to see if there was any like thing like we're being faked out here or anything. So no, just
well, I
follow
mean,
along.
there's like a stormtrooper to her immediate left has like his bowels hanging out, so they look fairly dead. So she or he or whatever leads you down a long corridor, a long winding series of labyrinthine corridors, which is not uncommon on Imperial ships. You go past boiler rooms, you hear the leaking drip of like fluid every now and then. She leads you into various different areas and says, turns back after a few minutes and says, "I will need to take you to the armory to retrieve your equipment or you will be useless." And in the deep raspy voice again, which you think at this stage, well, you're not sure actually. Make an awareness test. +10 for me. It's based on hearing, if anyone has heightened senses hearing.
+10?
Yeah. Okay, well, anyone who passes that by 3 or more degrees of success gets the distinct feeling that the voice is feminine, and it's almost as if she's been smoking glow sticks, very heavily her entire life, and it's essentially destroyed her larynx, if you know what I mean. So she has a very deep, raspy, sort of coughing voice, as if she's like imbued way too much tobacco. And she continues to go on for a while, and then indicates an armory door and says, "Your equipment is in there. We must retrieve it." And sort of just inclines, that it will be guarded. And she, he or she puts up a hushed voice and sort of shrugs against the door and looks in. And through the door, you can see a number of what you think is Inquisitorial stormtroopers and a number of voidsmen guarding the armory. And he indicates that you should get ready for a fight.
Does anyone have the like stats for Helgun?
Yeah, 1d10 plus 4 damage, pen 7, range is 110.
Why do I see range as 50?
For a Helgen,
Yeah,
it's the range is
110.
110. Yeah.
Okay.
Clip of 30, 2 full rounds to reload, can single shot or 3 round burst.
7 pen.
Yeah, you get a natural plus 10 for using it.
At this moment, I think this is the best time to, like, if there are guards, we can turn on the hooded figure. I do not trust this guy.
Okay, well, just as you're about to think about what to do, the hooded figure slams the door open and reveals you all to the guards, no matter what your choice is. You guys do get an ambush because they didn't detect this. I already rolled their perception or their awareness. So you guys have a surprise round. So roll initiative. I'll roll theirs, but I don't get to go. So. Someone roll for Boone.
I've done it.
Alright, cool. Alright, so he doesn't get to go. He doesn't get to go. And Ficus, it's your turn. So all these stormtroopers and everything are wheeling around, very surprised, like drawing their weapons, but you guys have a few seconds to like blast them.
So the general idea is we're going to kill these people.
Well, they're going to kill you otherwise, yeah.